Shri Radha Krishnaya Namah. Shri Radha Krishnaya Namah. Shri Radha Krishnaya Namah.
Jamuna Tiro Banachari Jamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Randana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Randana Yamuna Tiro Banachari Yamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Mahatma Sabribhaya Acharya Sakari Smavati Tam Saraswati Goswami Bhagavad Jaya Nanda Gori Vaishnava Ki Jaya Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya Names of the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sri Radha Shivacharya Gaur Bhakti Jaya Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Kanda Radha Kanda Giri Ki Jaya Vrindavan Dham Ki Jaya Navadvip Dham Ki Jaya Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Guru Dwarka Dhan Ki Jai, Swami the Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, all glories to the all glories to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, all glories to Great Deva, glories to Shri Prabhupada. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Can we start or we wait for a few minutes?
Well, you're the host, so you take the decisions. I'm just here.
Okay, let me see. It's exactly 1 o'clock.
6 people, five people we can say.
Yeah, let's give it like maybe 2-3 more minutes.
It's all right. It's all right.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu. So I think I'm going to put the verse on the screen and then we can start.
Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Take it from here.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narachaivam Naruttamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayit Nasta Prayesu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamam Sloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, one should offer respectful obeisance to Narayan, the personality of God, Sri Narayan, unto Narayan, which is the foremost of human beings, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of this, by regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, arranging service to the pure devotees, loving devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of God is established as an irrevocable fact. So we welcome this evening to Srimad Bhagavatam, First Canto, chapter 10, text number 4. So this Sanskrit text. Karmam varvasapa danyaha sarva karma dugarmahi sisishusma prajan gova payuda swati mudaha karman varvasapa anjaya sarva karma duga mahi sisishusma prajan gova paya sadava muda karma vavacha pajanyaha sarva karma dugamahi sushishushma vajandava paya sudasvat muda. Word for word translation. Karma, everything needed. Vavasha was showered. Pajanya, rains. Sarva, everything. Karma, necessities. Duga, producer. Mahi, Smaha, moistening. Rajan, pasturing grounds. Gara, the cow. Payasa, Udaswati, due to the swollen milk baths. Muda, because of a joyful attitude. Translation and purport by Divine Grace of Bhaichana Vindasi Bhaktivedanta Swami. Patita Pavans Laisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu Pahari Ki Jai. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the waters that people needed, and the earth produces all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to his fatty milk bath and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The basic principles of economic development is centered on land and cows. The necessity of human society are food, grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly, one does not require flesh and fish, or iron tools and machinery. During the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira, all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king, Indra, is the controller of rains. And he is the servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon. And these rains are the cause of all varieties of product on the land. Not only do regulated rains help ample production of grains and fruits, But when they combine with astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed the man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grains, enough fruits, enough cotton, enough milk, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do the people need cinemas, houses of prostitution, slaughterhouses, etc.? What is the need of an artificial luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the water fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said here that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their backs were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthira, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of the country citizens also? Then why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and non-violence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern advanced civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhishthira is by far superior to a social democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast vote for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord himself is the seed-giving father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus, Mother material nature has enough foodstuff, both for animals and for men. By the grace of the Father Almighty, Sri Krishna, the human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a showers of artificial greed and power, only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dog and ox. Hare Krishna. Umagyanam timirandasya gyana gyanam shalakaya chakshu militam jena tasmai shri gurave nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Pada Antikam. He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dina Bandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopi Kaka Kantarada Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gauranje Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shutidevi Pranamami Naripriye Vanchakarpata Rubyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Evascha Patitanam Pavashnavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangam Ladayate Girim Yakripat Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Karman Vavachapa Anyaha Sarva Kama Duga Mahi Tisichus Maharajan Gava Paya Sudaswati Muda. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produces all the necessity of a man in profusion. Due to his fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten with milk. Hare Krishna. So, devotees, once again, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to his co-founder, Acharya Divine Vishnu Prabhupada. All glories to all the Vaishnava devotees. I want to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to have opportunity to purify myself by repeating the words of the Vaishnava Acharyas, which is said to be the goal of human life. According to the Vedic scriptures, for one who wants to die or one who is about to die, there is no medication that is more superior, that is more appropriate, that is most adequate than hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the question then is, are we about to die? The situation of every living entity in the material world is that he has no fortune like Maharaj Parikshit, because Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days in which to prepare to die. But neither of us here has 5 minutes, because we do not know, even as we speak, anyone can slump and give up the body. So therefore, the Acharyas have explained that for one who has this realization, there is no better activities than to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. This hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the essence of all religious, spiritual activities. Why? Because this hearing process is the only means that guarantees opportunity to achieve success in the human life. For one who has taken birth in this material world, death is certain. And as long as one is sure to die, for an intelligent person, one's priority in life should be how to avoid a situation that he never dies again. Because even for the most grossest human being, everyone knows that death is not natural to us. Nobody likes death. But we have to die. And we don't want to die. Of all the things that happens to us in life, death is the most grievous one, because when someone falls sick, he can manage sickness for some time by the grace of the Lord. If one is very expert in material, he can manage aging process to some extent. Death is not under anybody's control. But for death, there's no remedy. And for one who has taken birth, death is sure. So therefore, the real problem of human life is to solve the problem of death. And to solve the problem of death, there is only one solution. That solution is what? Yam yam vapis maramba va trajati ante kalivaram. Sometimes invite come to ya sadatat bhava, bhavita. Whatever the state of mind that you remember at the time of death, that state you will attain, no doubt. So then the question is, how do we remember? That which guarantees eternality, freedom from death. That process, that only solution that guarantees freedom is what? Hearing about the Srimad Bhagavatam, about the Lord, the devotees, and his activities. Human life is characterized by 5 different levels of consciousness. At the grossest level of human life, which is considered to be almost like animalistic life, which most of the time the children, newly born children, are in. According to Vedic scriptures, it is called Anmaya. The state of consciousness that is described as ultimately eating. When you look at a child, whatever you do to a child, he wants to put the hand in the mouth, he wants to eat. So that is the unfortunate stage that most of the living entities in this material world is. They want to just eat. That is the priority. And when they eat nicely, they go to toilet and they develop so many diseases. This first stage of consciousness or development of consciousness in life is not so very wonderful. But one who is fortunate when he goes beyond that stage of Anamaya, maybe by the grace of the Lord, if he is fortunate, he might go to the second stage of development of consciousness, which is Pranamaya. The stage of Pranamaya is when one comes to the stages whereby he's passionate, he wants to achieve everything that pleases his senses. If one is fortunate by dint of good fortune, he rises above this second stage of human consciousness. He goes to the third stage of human consciousness development, which is Manomaya, mental state of life. This stage of life, man develops interest, he asks questions. Apart from eating, sleeping, mating, defending, what is life all about? And if he is fortunate, he comes to Genomaya. And he may rise to Vigyan, where he becomes self-realized. But it is said that that is still not wonderful. Until when one comes to another Maya, the life begins at that point. It is called the state of blissfulness. Only when one comes to this level that he appreciates this transcendental process of hearing in Krishna consciousness. This state of hearing in Krishna consciousness, the Acharyas have explained in the Brahma Samhita, in the Bhakti Ratamrisa Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, he gives 54 items of devotional service. And looking at the conditioned soul in the conditioned life in Kali Yuga, he brought them back to five angers. These five, he said, they are called the 5 potent branches of devotional service. We start with Sadhu Sangha. When we say Sadhu Sangha, sometimes it is misunderstood to be association of devotees. No, that is not it. Sadhu Sangha means associating with sadhus, those who have attained the goal of sadhya. But devotees are what? They are sadakas. They are sadakas who are practicing sadhanas. So when he says Sadhu Sangha, it is those who have actually attained the goal of sadhana, who have attained the goal of sadhya, who are pure devotees. That is what it means by Sadhu Sangha. Then deity worship. Going to the places of holy dham, worshiping the deities, then hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. The fifth one is chanting the holy name. And most time we think chanting the holy name is very powerful. It is the essence of everything. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in relation to these 5 angers of bhakti, that even superior to chanting is this hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because without hearing, no one can chant. So this process of hearing is the most wonderful attainment of life that one can have. So one who has developed, who has attained this level of hearing, is considered to be the most successful person in life. And hearing in what? Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because the Srimad Bhagavatam, of all kinds of hearing activities, this hearing about Krishna is devotees, and the activities of devotees is the essence of all. So when we come onto this platform and we see that people are not interested, it shows how far they are far from attaining the goal of human life. Today as at 3 p.m., I never thought I would be able to sit down to give class because I was really sick. And after taking some injections, and then I was telling Krishna, I said, well, even if it is the last thing I want to do in this body, at least give me the opportunity so that I can speak Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm very most happy. And that's why I start this lecture by glorifying the hearing process. Prahlad Maharaj, in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakasipu, he was very furious. And no one could approach him. But Prahlad Maharaj, he approached with folded hands. And Mother Lakshmi Devi, she said, I don't know this form of the Lord. And somebody will ask a question. How would Lakshmi Devi not know that form of the Lord, Nrsimhadev? Because Nrsimhadev form is an eternal form that exists eternally in the spiritual world. And Lakshmi Devi is his consort. So how does he say, does he know? So Srila Biva Mangala Thakur explained that for 2 reasons. One, to glorify the pure devotee like Prahlad. And also by the influence of the Yoga Maya, Lakshmi Devi said, I don't know this form. Well, in the conversation, Lord Nrsimhadev is telling that Prahlad Maharaj, Narada Muni, he was asking, so he's not afraid. Why? And in that conversation between the Lord and Lord Nrsimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj, there's a verse where Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord was going to give benedictions, and Prahlad Maharaj responded, I'm not interested in all of this. He said, if there's anything I want to beg for, I want to beg for those who are unfortunate living entities who are in this material world. We're already doomed. He said, but Prahlad, why are you not afraid? Why are you not seeking for liberation? He said, well, how will I be worried about liberation? When, by the grace of the Lord, I'm always constantly submerged in the hearing of this transcendental vibration of the Lord. So liberation, I can't remember. I don't even think about it. So if one is fortunate enough to become attached to hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, then such a person is already a liberated soul. Although he may be in the material body. So I congratulate all of you that you are opportune, that are always constantly listening to this Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's the essence of human life. So many great personalities. Just look at this Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a composition of question and answer. Generally, we look at Maharaj Parikshit, is asking questions about to die. But let's look at how beautiful such interaction is. Maharaj Parikshit is asking, what is the duty of somebody who is about to die? But when you look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, 90%, 95% of the discussion that goes there is about the Lord and the Lord's activities. That's how powerful the Lord's devotees are. Because their life is always going to always give the opportunity for devotees to hear about the Lord and his activities. So, looking at The verse we are reading today, I diverted a little bit from the beginning because I just wanted to glorify this hearing process. Like Govinda Maharaj, when he wants to give Srimad Bhagavatam class, he will spend half of the hours of Bhagavatam to talk about the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Radhana Maharaj will say that the greatest Bhagavatam, the greatest narration of Srimad Bhagavatam is the glorification of the hearing process of Srimad Bhagavatam because it's the ripening fruit of all. But maybe some other day we'll talk about what Srila Radhana Maharaj says about. It nicely analyzed the process of hearing this ripening fruit of bhakti by describing the material fruits from the root to the branches, to the trees, to the fruit of a tree. But let us go a little bit into today's discussion. In this today's test, this thing is very sacrosanct in the text. Srila Prabhu, Sukadev Goswami is answering questions to Sanaka Rishi. And this, Sukadev Goswami is describing the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira and what characterized those times. And Srila Prabhupada goes, this is one verse that Srila Prabhupada asks. There are few verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada will ask these numbers of questions. When you look at the purport of the Srila Prabhupada in today's text, Prabhupada is asking several questions. But those questions are actually rhetoric questions because they are already answered by Srila Prabhupada himself in those purports. In human life, everyone is struggling for the four Purusharthas. Dhamma, Artha, Moksha, Kama. For economic development. For what purpose? Karma, sense gratification, sense enjoyment. They want to show I'm a religious man. They engage in that religious activities. And that is not surprising why you see that in Kali Yuga, one will be known to be very religious because he has so much money. And when they are tired of these religious, so-called religious activities, they want liberation. But Srila Prabhupada is saying here that this goal of threefold goal of life that people pursue, that modern man is frustrated in achieving, even after so many endeavors. By this Maharaj Yudhishthira's example. In other words, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, individually or collectively, the secret for being prosperous, for being able to experience abundance in every ramification of life, is to become a devotee of the Lord. Because Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord. Just as a pure devotee of the Lord, everything under his rulership becomes successful. Everything manifests in abundance or collectively. To become prosperous, to become successful, to become peaceful in this present day life, one has to become like Maharaj Yudhishthira. What are the qualities of Maharaj Yudhishthira? Maharaj Yudhishthira is Dhamma personification. He cannot do any other thing than pleasing the Supreme Personality of God. So this is the secret of success. Everyone is struggling to become happy. But that secret of material prosperity and satisfaction can only be achieved. Like Prabhupada said in the purport, the necessities for human society are food, grains, fruit, milk, minerals, clothing, woods. All these basic things that we're struggling for in this material world to achieve. Prabhupada explained in the purport that all of this becomes very easily available to Maharaj Yudhishthira in his kingdom. He said, specifically in the purport, when the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administrations, vegetables and all of the necessities of life are achieved. When we look at today's modern, as at 10 years back, according to United Nations statistics, as at then there are 6.5 billion people on the Earth planet, and it is said that almost 1,795,000,000 people are statistically unable to feed. And as at last year, 2020, the world population is in the region of 7.8 billion people. And by United Nations statistics, 840 million people cannot feed. That is not to talk of those who only maybe have 001. That is, they don't eat morning, afternoon, they only eat once in the day. If they're able to manage to get one meal a day, then they consider themselves very successful for that day. Everything that the man is struggling for in a modern day leadership is frustrated. Why? Because the principles of godliness is jettisoned for material, mundane, scientific, as Prabhupada call it, advanced democratic rulership. In other words, the essence of this verse today is talking about what? It's saying that the secret of prosperity, success, and achievement of abundant life is simple. Just please the Lord. That is the secret of Maharaj Parikshit. Whether it is in the spiritual setting, like in Krishna consciousness, in another set of religious organizations, whether it is government leadership, whatever form of existence in this material world, if the principles of Krishna consciousness is followed, as given in the Upanishads, in the principles of Savasya Idam Sarva, Yat Kinsha Jagat Jagat, Tena Tena Brunjita Madrita Kaswa Swidana. Unless this principle is followed, whether it is Hare Krishna or Krishna consciousness leadership, rulership, whether it is government, secular government leadership, whether it is leadership in the family life, whether it is our individual life, incoherencies will not stop unless the principles of Krishna consciousness or godliness as followed by Maharaj Yudhishthira is followed. In other words, all imbalances in life are as a result of deviation from the principles of godliness as given by Krishna. Towards the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much on injustice to the lowest pursuits of life. And Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned how human being has created a mess of the human civilization by centering on this institution of animal slaughtering, and especially cows, which is indirectly the cause of all the bloodshed that we find in the world. Prabhupada went directly to say that we're brothers and sisters, senior sisters to the lower creatures. But instead of playing the role of the senior brothers, we kill the younger ones to satisfy our pellets. Then we create so much of imbalance in our lives. So if humanity wants to become happy, they have to identify and know that which is set aside as their own quota in nature. Simply take those things that are set aside as their own quota and leave others knowing truly well to whom they belong. Then there will be prosperity in life. And it does not matter whether it is individual life or institutional life or external government life, whatever status of life. The secret to become successful in this life and attain the ultimate goal of life is to live in agreement with Krishna. In the purport Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the last paragraph, that he emphasized this point, that the human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than animals for realizing the cause of nature and the indications of the Almighty. That is his purpose, to realizing the cause of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material natures without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a choice of artificial greed and power, only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and orbs. This is the problem of the world. And sometimes devotees will ask, but why is it that some of these symptoms, even in Krishna consciousness, we experience in that? The answer is simply, it's explained here. We are not following as it is given. Let us look at Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada exemplified, using his lives, this gigantic world, most powerful organization in the modern era, Krishna consciousness movement, ISKCON, was started with only 8 rupees. Just some small change in dollars. And because of the Prabhupada, this is the Lord, by example. Even though devotees were coming, as more devotees are coming, more and more Krishna was given to Srila Prabhupada. And single-handedly, without so much of material struggle, he built a wonderful organization for us. So if you want to become happy and blissful, let us follow the example as is given by the acharyas and allow you to become a blissful one. So I will want to stop here so that we can give room for questions and answers. So I thank each and every one of you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I hope by this little endeavor, we'll all be inspired to do the right thing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shri Salika Prabhu.
There you go.
Well, if I recall, you did mention you're not feeling well, but you're inconvenienced and sacrificed to speak. So we pray Guru and Krishna speeds up your recovery process.
Thank you. Amen. The material body is always sick.
Yeah.
So sometimes we realize that it's sick, sometimes we don't. So we
Yes.
forget.
Yeah.
Prabhupada used to give an example. He said the material life is such that it's the punishment that is given by kings in the olden days. Our so-called comfort in material world is like when someone is deep inside water in those days. When the king wants to punish somebody, he will catch him by a strong hand and they will force his head inside water and he'll be gasping for breath. And when he's about to give up, they bring out his head. And if he gasps, and when he's about feeling okay, then they drop him back again. So in the material world, that is what we experience. When we seemingly think we are okay, we are happy. It's just a momentary relief of material pangs. But actually, material life is such a hell.
Yeah.
And that is why it is said that it's not a gentle place, it's not a place for a gentleman.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare
So from this point now, whoever has a question can raise up their hand, and then he'll be asked to unmute and ask their question. The first question is from Dr. George. You can unmute and ask your question, please, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Accept my humble repentance.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, in terms of rainfall, the in the purpose, the purpose mention of the whole world. But today, we could see that even in Ghana here, some part of Ghana rainfall more than the other parts. So practically, can we say that those people, they are more of Krishna consciousness than the other parts of the country? That's my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Dr. George. Very nice, intelligent question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I don't think this has ever happened here before, but I had similar or almost the same question. So in order to make it 2 in 1,
Okay.
I want to add it to Dr. George's question. That does that mean that all the arid parts of the earth, like we have a place called the Atacama Desert, so sometimes it might not rain for like 5, 7, 10 years. Yet there are people living around those regions. Does that mean that those people are not doing anything to please the Lord? And like Dr. George was asking, if it rains in some parts of the country than the other part of the country, does that mean that the people living in the rainy zones are more religious than those not receiving enough rain? Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice question. First and foremost, let us understand one thing. There are no ideal leaders in Kali Yuga. And because there are no ideal leaders, so there is incoherent rainfalls. And because of the influence of Kali Yuga, we have so much divided the whole world to look as if it is a different country, different continents, under different governments. During the time of Maharaj Yudhishthira, even up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit, as explained in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, there's only one emperor. And because of the influence of that pious king, the whole world was under the influence of such a powerful leader, and the rain was equitably dropped all over the part of the world. And because there is no such a leader in the world today, the influence of the piety of the individuals attracts a particular type of magnitude of the grace of the Lord in terms of rainfall and other social amenities given by nature. And when you say, are those people in those places where there is no much rain, they're not Krishna conscious. It's not even this, it's not yet on the platform of Krishna consciousness. For material administration, Krishna consciousness is such a high level thing. We're talking of coming to the platform of human being first. Because to come to Krishna consciousness, one must have rise from the lowest level of consciousness, as I tried to explain in the beginning of the class. There are 5 stages of consciousness raising or levels. So to want to come to Krishna conscious level, you must have come to another Maya that at all. If one comes to the moral state of life, 3rd stage of life, where at least there is level of morality, there will be equitable distributions of nature's gift to the earth. So yes, to answer directly your question, those places where there are no much rains are as a result of the gross level of influence of sin. And the people that find themselves in those kind of a region are there also as a result of their previous karma, which is also their sin. Every natural gift of the Lord, like Prabhupada explained in the 1st paragraph of the purport, rain is not under the control of human beings. It's under the control of Indra as given to him by the Lord. And Indra, as is explained in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, it is explained that when the demigods are pleased, there's substantial rainfall and the food grains are produced. So if there are no rainfall, so directly by the statement of the scriptures, it means that there is level of piety there is extremely at the lowest ebb. And those who find themselves, whether by movement, by traveling, by whatever reason, find themselves in such a low region, is as a result of their sinful life. So you're right. Rain falls in the different locations as a result of the piety or impiety of the leaders in that particular region. That is the verdict of the scriptures. I hope I answered the question.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you. I hope Dr. George is satisfied with the answer. Does anybody have any more questions? Prabhu, you did talk about the 5 stages of consciousness, and the highest amongst them all is the Anandamaya level.
Yeah.
Now, does one consciously do something to move from one lower stage of consciousness to another, or it is just automatic. And from this stage to that stage, or more or less like just animal life, when they have to sleep, they just have the feeling to sleep, they sleep. They don't plan, I'm going to sleep for this number of hours and get up at this time. It's just like they are being controlled. So, how does one move from one consciousness to the next level? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. It requires a conscious endeavor for one to rise from one state of consciousness to the other. From the lowest level of consciousness, which is like that of animal state of consciousness, or the state where you find the children. In the lower species of human life, there is systemic growth by nature's arrangement. But the moment one comes into human form of life, like it is explained in the purport, human state of life, if one is in a human form of life, it requires its conscious effort for such a person, individual, to this next stage until it gets to the higher state of consciousness. Sometimes it is propelled by sufferings, or sometimes it is propelled by natural inclination. But one cannot rise from one stage of consciousness to another consciousness without consciously acting in that capacity. Just like I explained explaining this point, when one is in the animal level, when his life is just surrounded around eating, sleeping, mating, just feeling, just satisfied with just eating, material nature is so made in such a way that it never keeps you in a steady situation. So by influence of the material suffering or happiness, one naturally gets inspired within for the next stage of life. It's just like when a man is very poor, all he thinks about is how to satisfy his basic feeding needs. But once he gets enough money, then he starts thinking, oh, I have enough money now, so what next? So then he wants to get the next thing. But it takes a conscious effort. If I understand your question very nicely, properly, the point is, how do one? It takes a human conscious effort. There are those who are very rare living beings who by dint of pious activities are given opportunity, which is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that by influence of association of great personalities, one may be inspired. Just like when one, by dint of punya karma or sinful life, one gets into a particular association, he gets attracted to those kind of lifestyle. So if someone is, by dint of good fortune, gets into, by engaging in pious activities, he gets into a association of higher conscious persons, Krishna conscious person, or highly religious person, he wants to do that. So, but it takes a conscious effort. So we all have become Krishna conscious today because why? We got association with certain stages of life, and then we become interested in them, and then we aspire for it. and then we start growing, consciously, sometimes unconscious. But it happens by our endeavors in life.
Well, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Oladimeji has his hand up. You may unmute and ask your question, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very fine.
How is that?
Yeah, he's doing fine. Thank you very much, Prabhu. As a Muslim Sufi, we have, when Prabhupada mentioned the gods in charge of rain, we also have for the sun and all other things too. Do we in Islam, we actually call them the angels that handles rain? Are angels demigods?
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice question. Angels are not necessarily demigods. But because in explaining a difficult subject matter, you explain it according to the student or the recipient. It's just like if I'm going to tell a 5-year-old about, say something like the workings of internet. A 5-year-old ask, so how is it that this cinema, or maybe let me use a simpler example. If you want to tell somebody, Nigerian government, for an example, let us come on and use an example locally. The government passes a law, say like people should not go out today. To a layman on the streets, who does he call? He calls Buhari immediately. But definitely, if you look closely, that law may not have been promulgated by Buhari, the president. It may have been promoted by maybe promoted by even maybe one of the senators. It may have arisen based on the suggestions of the governor of a state. But when a layman sees the government, he thinks about the president. So when we talk about demigod are like ministers in the cabinet of a government. But apart from the ministers, there are special advisors. There are people like, there are people like permanent secretaries in government. But to a layman, whatever any one of these status of government does, it is government that has done it. So angels in Islam, generally the demigods, the minister, the angels are all categorized as angels. But angels, or the representative of God, or just like I give an example of the representative of government, they have different categories. They are not on the same levels. But to a layman, they are all government agents that has taken a decision or enforced a decision. So angels are lower in terms of categories with the demigods. Demigods are like ministers in the government, and the angels are like, maybe you say like special advisors or permanent secretaries, head of ministries. So they are lower people, they are lower cadre of God's agents that act in particular categories.
Hare Krishna. Oladimeji, I hope your question is being beautifully taken care of. Otherwise, if you have a follow-up question, you may.
Yes, he has actually answered my question. The question I wanted to actually clarify is, we have prophets too. Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, Moses, Abraham, Israel, Ismail, which is Isaac. And yes, I want to, what kind of category can we place all the prophets that gods are sending down? And anytime I try to read the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, I always try to look around where I can fit in their identity, which category do they fall into in the past life of the Lord.
Okay. Yeah. If you have read a little bit into Krishna consciousness philosophy, you will see that the Lord has different levels of incarnation. There are 6 different kinds of incarnations of God. And out of the 6, the lowest among them is the Shakti Avesh Avatars, empowered incarnations of God. And within the empowered incarnations of God, there are also categories. To a Christian or a Muslim, coming from those backgrounds, it is difficult to explain because in those traditions, which is actually one tradition, unfortunately, there is so much separated now by ignorance. They think that they are coming from Jewish tradition. So the prophets, like we mentioned, Prophet Isaac, Abraham, and all of these, they are all empowered incarnations of God. But like I gave an example before, when we say government agents or representative of government, a commissioner at the state level is a government agent. But if somebody does not know, a man comes from any other part of the world and say this person is a commissioner, and they say somebody has come from the same place, country, is a minister of the federal state, he sees both of them as as government agents, but their level are different. So personality, Isaac, even Samuel, even Dauda, and many of these personalities, they are all in the categories of ordinary living entities who are endowed with some potency of the Lord, as it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. No one can expound the part of God realization or religion without being empowered by the Lord. So these people, these individuals are all empowered in different categories, but their categories are different. And some of them can be called Shakti Avesha Avatar. Some of them are just ordinary living entities who are endowed with some little potency of God. Amazingly, let me even explain this to you. Even within the living entities, each and every living entities on this earth are all endowed with some kind of potency. You cannot, no one in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8.
Salika Prabhu, you're breaking up.
Test number, chapter 7, test number, personality of Godhead.
Okay. We missed a big chunk of what you said because
I'm using my phone network and someone was disturbing.
Okay. So if you may repeat what you said.
What did you hear last?
Well, you were saying it that there are different categories. Some may be considered as Shakti Avesh, some may be considered as ordinary people that are given certain empowerments. And then you were also talking about everybody in general has some
Yeah,
potential to do
yeah.
so.
So every living entity in this material world has some potency, or one potency or the other given by the Lord. And I was quoting Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, verse number 8, where the Lord says that I am the ability in man. So the Lord gives empowerment to each and every living entities, but our level of empowerment are different based on the level of our relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. So all of these persons mentioned in the Bible, in the Quran, and other scriptures are all different empowered living entities who are given empowerment to expound certain attributes of God's desires on the earth planet.
Okay, thank you. It seems Oladimeji is happy with your answer.
Thank you.
Then Dr. George, you have another question? Follow up?
Yes, please, Prabhu. Okay, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Once again, thank you. Prabhu, still, based on this rainfall issue,
Mhm.
my question is, can we manipulate these demigods? For instance, in my hometown, there is this kind of rituals that we perform whenever you have a shortfall of rain.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, when the ritual is being performed, that very day, in fact, sometimes you don't even finish before rain starts.
It's not falling.
So,
Yeah.
and also, we can stop rainfall also. Personally, I can stop rain with using just on small domestic items. So my question here is, even though the rainfall is in the hands of the demigods, but are we human beings so powerful that we can manipulate the demigods? That is my question. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you. I was expecting this question actually. I was expecting somebody will ask, because in Africa we see that people could stop rain, they could call for rain. Someone is doing some occasions, they say, "I'll bring rain for you so that your program will be spoiled," and all of that. So I was expecting actually this question.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, but that also has nicely been answered by the Lord. Like I said in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that when the demigods are pleased, they pour down rainfalls. So this, although in Vedic times, according to Vedic standard, there is a proper documentation of knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada often always explain that even up to about 400 years ago, in Africa, we were following Vedic culture. But recently, as due to the influence of time, we've forgotten this. So the Vedic culture is spread across the whole world, just like you read in the purport. It is not just for India or for Asia. The Vedic culture is the culture of the universe, of the world. But as time goes, this knowledge is being forgotten. And some of our fathers and great-grandfathers still have some bit of this information, but because it is not properly documented, it is not properly written, when they practice it, we do not recognize the importance of what they are doing. But our great-grandfathers knows how to call these demigods and appease them. And naturally, when the demigod is pleased, they give benedictions. So what you see in our local tradition is not something different from Vedic culture. It is just that here, because the white man has come and made us think that we are cultureless. So therefore, they have to acculture us. They have to bring culture for us. And that is what has made us to think that our great grandfathers' time are influenced by ignorance, or what we call it locally, what they call it locally. We call it different names, actually, depending on different regions. We call it idolatry worship and all of those, whatever names we give to them, because we assume that they are not bona fide because of the influence of the white man. But African was actually under the influence of Vedic culture until some hundreds of years back. And the remnants of those culture, Vedic culture, of worshiping the demigods are still there. But in modern days, because of the influence of the Western ideologies, we are gradually forgetting them. And because we are forgetting them, because we thought they were actually something that is idolatry as we have been made to believe. So we lost all of this culture. But Vedic culture was here in Africa, and those who are actually still able to carry on the disciplic succession information are still able to do it. But because they are doing it in the crudest way, based on the loss of the informations in details. So we still see the influence of it. So what they are doing is actually appeasing the demigods. You see even in local here, we worship the god of iron, god of thunder, which is actually Lord Indra they're worshiping, and all of these demigods. So we know all of these demigod worship here in Africa, but because of the influence of Western ideologies, we abandon them and condemn them to be something that is abnormal or improper. But actually, it is Vedic.
Okay, Krishna Prabhu. Today I have a lot of questions for you. I don't know if time will permit us.
Yeah, I think we still have some time.
Yeah.
Well,
Prabhu said he wasn't feeling very well, but
okay. I get better the more I speak about Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Prabhu, let me, this is personal. I have to put it across so that I need your advice also, and as well as the senior devotees on the platform. Before I become a devotee, let me use the word to be like that. There is this worship, the same thing like Indra worship in my family. So my father passed away, and I happen to be the only boy. So I have to take in charge, or I have to continue this. And now, the thing is, being a devotee, I cannot continue worshiping that form of Indra worship. So, and in every year, the celebration goes on. So even though I'm not going to worship, I can send Lakshmi for them to take care of the deities. So my question now is, being a devotee now, and I consider those things less than Krishna consciousness. What do I supposed to do now? Do I have to abandon the whole thing, not even sending Lakshmi, or what do I supposed to do? It's the same as this Indra worship that we are talking about here. That is why I have to put this question across.
Yeah. Krishna has nicely answered you in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadhamma parityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva abhivyo muktyami syami masicha. Just abandon all varieties of religion. So when Krishna is talking about religion in that context, he's actually talking about different kinds of worship. All these kind of worships, yes, they are there. And traditionally, we inherit some of them. But yeah, on the platform of Bhakti, one is freed. One who engages in the worship of the Lord is free from the responsibility of all of these. Actually, the living entities were indebted to 33 million demigods, not just Indra. Indra is just one. By having taken this material body, we are automatically indebted to 33 million demigods. And if we do not fulfill the conditions of service or worship of those demigods, we go to hell. We suffer. But when one takes to the process of bhakti, devotion and service, it is said that one is become relieved from the responsibility of duties to the demigods, to all of the demigods. But that is if someone engages in Krishna consciousness. As long as one does not engage in full Krishna consciousness, he is bound by the duties, responsibility he has to all of the devas. And now let us step it down to your family traditions. Most of the demigod worships in Africa has been completely what word do I use there? Has been somehow or the other covered to an extent, to a greater extent that the original thing is almost completely lost. You hardly can find the originality of those worship. So even if you want to do them, because so many things has been incorporated into it, that it's not even the right thing. It's difficult to find the authentic worship of those demigods in our culture presently, especially in Africa, because the culture has been so much, because of loss of information, because of lack of disciplic succession, proper disciplic succession, the authenticity of these worships are all degraded because of that lack of disciplic succession, let me put it that way. So it is not advisable. Yes, sometimes when we come from a very difficult family, they still impose upon us, give us money to do this, give us money to do that. And I said to you, I said, well, it depends on your level of advancement in Krishna consciousness. One who is fully committed to Krishna consciousness will not be bothered about all of these things.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So in case I'm fully devoted, how do I discard such things?
Just worship Krishna. If you worship Krishna, give your full time to Krishna consciousness. One who's engaged in full Krishna consciousness is not bereft of all the results of worship. Is one who's engaged in Krishna consciousness is not bereft of all the benefits that is expected to be derived from all forms of other worships. And then what is engaging in full Krishna consciousness? Srila Rupa Goswami has taught us. It's simple. Give 50% of your earnings and endeavor to Krishna consciousness. Keep 25% for your emergencies, personal use. 25% for your family needs.
Okay, thank you very much for your wonderful answers. Hare Krishna.
Very well.
Okay, Hare Krishna. We have a question from Stephen. Hello. You may unmute.
Stephen, hello, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Asman Stephen.
Dandava Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, my intelligence is not well developed, so I'm not used to asking questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a guy. Prabhu just said something. And there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 52. If we can spend maybe some 5 minutes reading the death and the purpose.
Chapter what?
Chapter 2, verse 52.
Okay, but go here, chapter 2, verse.
Yes, if we can read that.
Okay.
Something from Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Do you want me to put it on the screen, or you're asking him to read later?
Yeah, you can put it on screen. I'm going there actually. I'm trying to open it on my system here to see what is he wants us to talk about.
It says 252, right?
Yeah, 252.
Okay. All right. So
When your intelligence has Yadate Moa Kalilam Bodhi Vyatitari Syati Tadagantasi Nerive Edaham Shrota Vyas Sruta Sacha. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been had and all that is to be had. So what's your question in regards to this?
yeah,
Hare Krishna.
I think, okay, let me hear you. Okay, are you giving a...
Yeah, I'm not actually asking a question. I said if there's a need, 5 minutes, it can be read maybe for us. Just that's my question. Like if you can read it.
Okay, see what it says here. There are many examples in the lives of great devotees of the Lord, those who have become indifferent to the rituals of the Vedas simply by devotional service to the Lord. When a person factually understands Krishna and his relationship with Krishna, he naturally becomes completely indifferent to the rituals of fruitive activities. Even though an experienced Brahmana, Sri Madhavendra Puri, a great devotee and acharya, in the line of the devotee says, Sandhya Vandanam Bandhana Astu Bhavatobo Sanatubhyam Namo Bodheva Pitaras Chatapana Vedau Naham Sama Samayatam Yatravtapi Nisadya Yadava Kulotam Payas Kamsa Disa Smaram Agam Arantitat Aham Manyekim Ayena Ame. All my prayers 3 times a day. All glories to you. Oh Bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. Oh demigods, oh forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respect. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of the Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all. This is sufficient for me. The Vedic rites and rituals are imperative for neophytes, comprehending all kinds of prayer 3 times a day, taking a bed early in the morning, offering respect to the forefathers, etc. But when one is fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes different to all of these regulatory principles because he has already attained perfection. If one can reach the platform of understanding by service to the Supreme Personality of Supreme Lord Krishna, he has no longer to execute different types of penances and sacrifices as recommended in revealed scriptures. And similarly, if one has not understood that the purpose of the Vedas is to reach Krishna and simply engages in the rituals, etc., then he's uselessly wasting time in such engagement. Persons in Krishna consciousness transcend the limit of Sabda Brahma or the range of the Vedic Vedas and Upanishads. So basically, what Stephen Harlow was just actually buttressing the point that has been raised in answer to Dr. George Amiga's question, that for one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, he has no duty to all of this any longer. He is completely free. But one must be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. If no one is not fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, then the consequences of not doing those rituals will affect him in different ways.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Salika Prabhu, please excuse me to possibly add something little to what you just said. I'm so pleased with your answer because I have a very good friend here. He's here in the States, and he comes from a home where they worship Indra. He doesn't know the name of the god to be as such, but now he knows. And this guy is trying to be a devotee. He knows much about devotional service. He's not a fully committed devotee. But this guy is suffering seriously materially. And the reason why he's suffering is because he has denied following the family tradition by worshiping Indra. And so it may be very easy for us to tell somebody like Dr. George to say, oh, no, now you've surrendered to Krishna, so everything is okay. Don't worry about the family tradition. But like you rightly said, and Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes here, that's why I'm still keeping this page on. This is a very advanced devotee speaking, Madhavendra Puri. This person, Krishna himself, had to keep a bowl of sweet rice for him because he's a very great devotee. Krishna is prepared to serve him, and he is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. So a very great personality. So Srila Prabhupada is saying here, let me highlight it here. And Salika Prabhu, you also highlighted it. It
But
says,
when one is fully
Prabhupada,
in Krishna consciousness,
yes,
but when one is fully in
but
Krishna
here,
consciousness and is
says,
engaged
but
in
when
transcendental
one
loving
is
service,
fully in Krishna consciousness and is engaged in his transcendental loving service, one becomes indifferent to all these regulative principles because he has already attained perfection. So this is a very big clause. But when one is fully in Krishna consciousness, I mean, speaking for myself, I am not fully Krishna conscious. And so there are certain things, if I artificially ignore them, probably may go against me. I also heard Bhakti Damodara Maharaj asked a question to which he answered beautifully as always. He was asked, as devotees, can we be affected by black magic? And his answer was yes, if one is not practicing devotional service fully. So, well, a word to the wise is enough. So, Dr. George. And thank you, Salika Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
yeah, that's why I emphasizes that point to him, that it depends on the level of your advancement in Krishna consciousness. If you're
Yeah.
not fully Krishna conscious, then you suffer like anything. And then when we look at the gopis of Vrindavan and the residents of Vrindavan, when Lord Krishna told them to abandon the Indra worship, Indra did not say because it was Krishna instructing. He pounced on them in a very heavy way and then poured a very devastating rain. So the moment we stop the responsibility to the demigods, not just Indra, like I said, we're indebted to 33 million. Most of the challenges we are facing in the material world are not because some grandmother in the village, as we most often think. It is as a result of the displeasure of the demigods. There are different demigods that are controlling the eye blinking, the ear. They are all the handwork of different demigods. And if those demigods are not pleased by our usual offerings, which we are meant to do, then definitely they will send some punishment to us in different capacity. But when we take to Krishna consciousness, fully dedicated to Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada used to say that, let me repeat that. When we're dedicated to Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, Papa wasn't making mistake when he was using that. It sounds like a kind of a tautology, but that is how Prabhupada emphasizes the importance of engaging in Krishna consciousness, associating with Krishna in Krishna consciousness. In other words, one may be a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That does not make you Krishna conscious person. One may be a member of the Hare Krishna movement. That does not make you Krishna conscious. For one to be Krishna conscious, one has to engage in activities of Krishna consciousness. And to engage in activities of Krishna consciousness, one must have faith in Krishna without doubt. In other words, even when you do Krishna consciousness with doubtful mind, then the chances, the tendencies are that you will still be affected by the influence of the three modes of material nature. Like Krishna has said, Prabhupada said in the purport of today's text, material nature is the mother. And he paraphrased that verse, Prakriti Kriya Manani. So material nature is our mother, Krishna is our father, and Bija Pradapita is the father. But then, if we deviate just a little, we get this the reciprocation from the demigod's punishment for inability to act in a different capacity. So that is why one who takes to this process must take to this process in full Krishna consciousness. And it's like Guru Dev used to say that we should join Krishna consciousness every day. We should rejoin.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Well, I think there are no further hands up, so I guess everybody is satisfied. And again, we say thank you so much for showing up.
I got my life back by doing this. I was feeling so sick before I start the class. I think I can jog now after this class.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Amazing.
So at this point, we ask all the devotees to unmute themselves, and then we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna. So you all have a wonderful weekend, and by Guru Krishna's grace, we'll meet again on Monday.
Okay, good. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.